It's 10:17 at night, and you're standing in your kitchen, staring at nothing in particular. Nothing bad happened today. No argument. No crisis. You even crossed a few things off your list. And yet your chest feels slightly tight, like you forgot something important, but you can't name what it is. So you ask yourself, why do I feel nervous without a reason? What you may be experiencing is a quiet kind of uneasiness that doesn't attach itself to a clear story. In this video, I'll walk through why this happens, what might be sitting underneath it, and 1 or 2 small ways to steady yourself when it shows up. Feeling nervous for no reason is when your body acts like something is wrong, even though your mind can't point to a specific problem. One common reason is that your system has been running on low for longer than you realized. When life stays busy for weeks or months, your body can get used to being slightly on edge. Deadlines, notifications, traffic, small conflicts, constant decisions. None of them feel dramatic on their own. But stacked together, they keep your body in a mild state of alert. After a while, that alert feeling doesn't switch off right away. So even on a calm evening, when nothing is happening, your body may still be bracing, like it's waiting for the next thing to land. Sometimes, it comes from carrying unfinished thoughts in the background. Not big, obvious worries. Just loose ends. A conversation you haven't had yet. A decision you've been postponing. An email you're avoiding opening. Your mind doesn't always shout about these things. It just keeps them open in the background, like tabs on a browser. And even if you're not actively thinking about them, your body may still register that something is unresolved. So you feel a low hum of nervous energy, even when you're just folding laundry or watching a show. Over time, another layer shows up when you've trained yourself to scan for what could go wrong. Maybe at some point, being prepared kept you safe. Maybe catching mistakes early helped you avoid criticism. Your mind learns that looking for problems is useful. And it gets good at it. So good that it keeps scanning even when there's no clear threat. You might walk into a normal meeting and immediately think about what could be misunderstood. You might send a simple text and then feel a wave of doubt, even though the message was fine. The habit isn't loud. It's just constant. It's like your body is asking, what are we missing? Even when the room is quiet. Picture this. It's a weekday afternoon, and you're sitting at your desk at work. The office isn't loud, just the soft hum of air conditioning and keyboards. You open your inbox. There's a new message from your manager. The subject line is neutral. Nothing dramatic. But before you even click it, your stomach tightens. You haven't done anything wrong. You met your deadlines. The last conversation went fine. Still, your heart speeds up slightly. Your mind jumps ahead. Did I forget something? Is there feedback I'm not expecting? You read the email. It's a simple update. No criticism. No hidden tone. And yet your body doesn't fully relax. If you've been there, you're not strange. You might know someone who lives like this. This is what quiet nervousness can look like when it doesn't attach to a clear reason. It's not about the email. It's about how used to alertness your system has become. There's something else here that isn't talked about enough. Sometimes this nervous feeling shows up not because something is wrong, but because things are finally still. When you're busy, your attention is occupied. There's always something to respond to. But when the noise drops, late at night, early in the morning, or during a slow afternoon, your body suddenly has space to notice itself. And if it's been holding tension, that tension becomes more obvious. So the stillness doesn't feel peaceful at first. It feels exposed. In those moments, it can help to gently separate sensation from story. When you notice the nervous feeling, you might pause and name what's physically happening, without adding meaning to it. Something like, my chest feels tight, or my shoulders are up near my ears. Keep it simple and factual. Then ask, is there an actual problem in front of me right now? If the answer is no, you don't have to force yourself to relax. Just let the feeling be there for a minute. Often, when you stop trying to solve it, it softens on its own. Not instantly. Just gradually. This works because your body learns that not every signal needs a full investigation. Another small shift is to close one open loop at a time. If your mind tends to hold on to unfinished things, pick one tiny task you've been avoiding and finish it. Send the short reply. Put the paper in the folder. Make the quick appointment. Not the biggest task, just one manageable piece. When you close even a small loop, your body gets a quiet message, something is handled. Over time, those small closures reduce the background noise your system has been carrying. You don't have to clear your entire life. Just lower the volume a notch. It may also help to remember that nervous energy isn't always a sign of danger. Sometimes it's leftover momentum. Sometimes it's your mind trying to stay ahead of a world that moves fast. Sometimes it's just fatigue dressed up as alertness. You can be doing fine and still feel slightly off. And that doesn't automatically mean you missed something important. This is for people who look calm on the outside but feel a subtle hum underneath. For people who double-check the stove even after they know it's off. Who reread a message even after it was clear. Who sit on the couch at night and feel like something is about to happen when nothing is. You're not dramatic. You're not weak. Your system may have just learned to stay ready. And readiness, when it goes on too long, can feel like nervousness without a reason. Noticing that pattern doesn't make it disappear overnight. But it can change how you respond to it. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" you might start asking, "What has my body been carrying lately?" That question alone can soften the edge. And if this quiet kind of unease feels familiar, you're not alone in it. This is a space for people who function well, but still feel that subtle undercurrent. Sometimes understanding is enough to let you exhale a little longer than before.